Good morning, everyone. It's Jennifer Nassy with Learning Leaf LLC, and welcome to, I believe this is video 10 already, of my 30 videos in 30 days series. Can you believe that? Wow, we're a third of the way through. So thanks for hanging in there with me. So today I want to talk to you a bit about trigger foods and what exactly does that mean. So we hear a lot about food intolerances and food allergies. We're hearing a lot more about that than we used to. And there's a variety of reasons for why people are experiencing those and how come they're coming up so much more frequently. But we're not going to be able to get into all of that today. But what I can say is that people really have individual body types. My training focuses a lot on bio-individuality. So knowing that some foods might work for one person and might not work for another. And so a lot of the work I do is around helping people figure out what foods do fuel their body in the most supportive way and what foods might be taking away from their health. Now, in the case of chronic illness, and especially with autoimmune conditions, there often, if not always, are food triggers involved. So what can happen is, let's say for my own example, my own history, I have a gluten intolerance, and that came out as I was going through my healing process with all the IBS stuff I had going on, the leaky gut, the candida, which is when bad yeast, the bad bugs in our gut overgrow and take over, and then obviously with my psoriasis stuff going on too. I discovered that gluten was a huge issue for me, and it was causing a lot of damage in my intestinal tract. And because of that, what happens is your body is trying to protect you, right? And so it's recognizing, for me, and for a lot of other people, it's recognizing that gluten protein as something foreign, and so it creates antibodies, and your body sends all these white blood cells to rush in and deal with this invader. Well, that creates inflammation, and inflammation has a role in our body. It's supposed to be a part of our protection mechanism. The problem is if you are constantly in that mode where your body is constantly fighting things that you're putting in your system, then that inflammation is always there, it's always present, and then that's when we start to see that connection to a lot of bigger health issues. And so for some people, that's the case. Gluten in particular, I can tell you it does not go well with autoimmune disease. It is a very, very common intolerance. In fact, they're now guessing that up to 30% of the population are having some trouble with gluten. And we'll get into a little bit later on some of the reasons when you start looking at genetically modified organisms and things like that. But again, we're just not going to have time to quite get there today, so hang in there, and we will talk about that a bit down the road. Another thing that can be at play, so you can have foods that your body it sees as foreign and it attacks them, and they ramp up your immune system and cause it to be overactive, which is exactly what autoimmune diseases are, right? Our system is overreacting. And so those are foods that you might have to take out for the rest of your life. For me, gluten is gone for good. It does really, really bad things in my body. But then there's sort of this gray area of some other foods. And what can happen, for example, is let's say someone is having an issue with gluten and they didn't realize it, and it's wreaking havoc in their system. So then if we look at the casein protein in dairy, the structure of that is very similar to the gluten molecule. So what can happen is your system's overreactive, it's reacting to gluten, and it doesn't recognize that casein protein as different. It sees it as the same thing, and all of a sudden you're reacting to dairy too. And that's how sometimes you can get folks who, started out with maybe one allergy or two, and all of a sudden they're having all these reactions to all these different kinds of foods. Really, their system is just in this overreactive state. It's starting to react to all sorts of stuff. And for quite a few people, if they take those foods out for a while, they do the healing that needs to happen in their gut, they can slowly start to reintroduce some of those foods, and they might not be a problem going forward. So yeah, as you can see, it's kind of a complex puzzle. It's something I actually get really excited about getting in there and figuring out what's going on. But it does take time, and it takes patience, and it takes healing that gut. Another reason for that is if we don't have optimal digestion, let's say, and we're not fully breaking down our proteins can then get absorbed into the bloodstream, and that's where you start getting that sort of leaky gut phenomenon, where things are getting in the bloodstream that are not fully broken down. they're recognized as our body as foreign because they're not supposed to be there in that state. And so our body, again, it sends antibodies, it starts reacting, it starts using all those white blood cells, which is driving inflammation. And so really looking at how to optimize our digestion so that our body is efficiently breaking down all of our food into the components that we need can make a huge difference for how our gut functions and the kinds of reactions that we see there. So again, it is a very complex thing, but once you start figuring out what foods make you feel good, what foods are bogging you down, it can be a night and day difference in the health of a lot of people. So one of the things I do, especially with my 21-day cleanse, is that we take out most of the major allergens. We take out gluten and wheat. We take out dairy and soy and corn and eggs and all these things that really tend to trigger people's systems that are harder to digest. We give their systems a break. We let it reboot a little bit. And then the most important component is that there is a very gradual reintroduction schedule. What I hear people do so often is that they'll do an elimination diet for a period of time, and then when it's done, they throw everything right back in, and you can't tell what your system's reacting to. Reactions to things we have ingested can, especially if it's immune system related, can take up to 72 hours. So you could eat something on Friday and not feel the effects until, say, Sunday. So let's say you're trying one food Friday and one food Saturday and another one Sunday, and by Sunday night you're having a reaction. You don't have an idea, a clear picture of what food is causing that. So it is super important to give your body space and time to reintroduce one food at a time and take notice over those 72 hours of the changes you see. And there can be a wide range of symptoms. For me, I know there were things, not only the digestive stuff going on, but I had balance issues. I felt foggy. I was forgetful. Sometimes we forget this gut-brain connection. They are intimately connected. And so, yes, you start leaking stuff into your bloodstream that isn't supposed to be there, and your body is sending antibodies and attacking it, and whatever it's circulating throughout your system, it absolutely can affect your brain and how your brain is functioning. So there is a lot to look at, and it is something that I'm really passionate about supporting clients through. So if that is something you are interested in learning more about, go to learningleafcoaching.com, and under the cleanses tab, you can see the different cleanses I offer. I have a 7-day beginner cleanse, which is a home study course. It's a great way to get your feet wet. It is not, however, long enough to truly test if you have some food sensitivities going on. So if that is something that you are really interested in, or if you have a chronic illness, then I absolutely recommend doing the 3-week program and getting the support that goes along with that. So I know that was a lot of information to throw at you today and for you to digest. Pun absolutely intended, but take a little time, think about how different foods could be impacting your body and how you could maybe take some next steps to figure out which foods really are the best fit for you, and perhaps which foods you need to be taking a break from and analyzing to see how they impact your health. So take care. I know it's a beautiful day here. We are about to take off and go for a hike, so I hope that you are out there enjoying your day wherever you are, and I will be back tomorrow.